It was a cold morning in early February when I got this footage. I remember crouching down in the freezing cold amongst some dried cattails with my camera and tripod. The pond was full of American widgeons, several American coots, and a couple Canada geese. Although they mix closely with widgeons and other ducks, coots are different. They dabble, but they also dive. They have a duck-like shape, but are more plump and round. They don't have a tail like a duck either. And what is going on with their bills? It's white and in stark contrast to their charcoal feathers, extending up their foreheads like a piece of armor. There are coots all over the world, 11 species in total, in the genus Fulica, which means coot. You can find the American coot, Fulica americana, in Canada, the US, and Mexico. They look very similar to the Eurasian coot, Fulica atra, which is found in Europe, Asia, a little bit of Africa, and Australia. They are sometimes called the common coot or the Australian coot, depending on where you are. The Eurasian coot is slightly bigger, and its bill and frontal shield, that's that white armor thing, is all white and a little more bulbous at the top, whereas the American coot has a ring around the end of its bill and maroonish or brown coloring towards the top of the shield. Although they frequently intermingle and forage with ducks, they aren't ducks at all, not even diving ducks. They're actually in the rail family. American coots are sometimes confused with the smaller common gallinule, which has a red frontal shield and long toes for walking on floating vegetation. Unlike ducks who have webbed feet, coots have the most fantastically weird and otherworldly-looking feet. They're lobed. This all-purpose foot allows them the best of both worlds, the ability to be in the water and to walk on land. Here's how it works. Each toe has lobes, or flaps of skin, that help propel it through the water like a pair of flippers. When on land, the lobes fold back when it lifts its foot, so as not to impede each step. And as a bonus, it can still support them when walking through mud. When not using its fancy feet for water propulsion or on land, they use them to get a running start to become airborne from the water, while flapping their wings furiously. But that's not the only thing that's afoot with coots. Coots are highly territorial and quarrelsome, and it's not uncommon for fights to break out. When in a brawl, they rear up and lean back and use their feet to claw at their opponent. Afterwards, everyone adopts swan pose while tempers cool down. The frontal shield is like having a built-in helmet, at least partially, and is useful for these times. Coot youngsters are the craziest-looking baby birds. They're precocial black balls of fluff with spiky down of red, orange, and yellow amongst nearly bare heads. But why have chicks that are so conspicuous to predators instead of being well camouflaged? Research has shown that coot parents preferentially feed chicks who are the most brightly colored over those who are less colorful. But why would they have a preference for this in the first place? Is it the chick manipulating the parents to get more food? If so, how could that be possible when they can't control their own pigment? Their pigment comes from the carotenoids from the mother. Coots lay 8 to 12 eggs, 1 per day, and they hatch in the order in which they were laid. The later the chick hatches, the more colorful it is. Hold on to that thought for a moment. This is about to get more complicated. We gotta dive into coot family drama. Coots have a reproductive style that is egregiously harsh and grim. 8 to 12 eggs is far more mouths than the food supply can support in most years. Basically, they lay an optimistic clutch and then cull the brood to make it commensurate with the current year's food supply, raising as many chicks as they can. Chick mortality is very high, with about half of each brood dying of starvation. This happens within the first 10 days after the eggs hatch, and before the parents have shown any feeding preferences. But at that 10-day mark, the tides change. The parents then decide to favor the youngest and smallest of the brood, making sure they get enough food to survive. Remember, these are the more brightly colored ones. The parents divide up the brood and each chooses a colorful favorite and gives that chick preferential feeding. The larger and older chicks are now likely to endure what's called tousling, where the parents grab them by the neck or head and shake them to discourage them from begging for food. As a result, these older chicks stop begging and usually end up starving. So, the coot you see at your local pond may have endured multiple brood calls, favoritism, neglect, then being the favorite again, and likely had bright plumage, which it got by chance of laying order. Goodness, these birds are complex. Also, they are conspecific brood parasites, meaning that they sometimes lay a couple eggs in the nests of other coots. And remember, these are the ones that are the least brightly colored. Who knew that there was so much going on with this bird diving for algae in the pond with some fellow widgeons? What kind of coot do you have in your area? Feel free to let me know in the comments below. Thank you for watching. That's all for this time. I'll see you again soon.